The comprehensive effects of reading aloud. Development of an English brain. By reading aloud, you are forced to process English sentences from left to right in their original word order. This prevents your brain from translating the sentence backward into Japanese, drastically increasing your reading speed and reading comprehension. Drastic improvement in listening skills. There is a fundamental rule in language learning. You can only hear the sounds you can pronounce. Reading aloud trains your brain to recognize the correct rhythm, intonation, and linking of English words, which automatically makes it easier to catch fast native speech. Strengthening muscle memory for speaking. Speaking a foreign language is essentially a physical sport. Reading aloud repeatedly trains your vocal cords, lips, and tongue to move automatically, allowing you to speak smoothly without hesitating or overthinking the grammar. The prefrontal cortex and the mechanism of learning. Now, let's address your excellent question. Why does the activation of the prefrontal cortex equal learning? The role of the brain's command center. The prefrontal cortex is located at the front of your brain and acts as the ultimate command center. It is responsible for deep focus, logical thinking, and working memory, the ability to hold and process information temporarily. The multisensory overload of reading aloud. When you read silently, you are mostly just using visual processing. However, when you read aloud, you are doing three complex things simultaneously: looking at the text, visual, moving your mouth to articulate the words, motor, and hearing your own voice, auditory. This intense multitasking heavily stimulates the prefrontal cortex, forcing it to work at maximum capacity.
Why this activation becomes learning. Learning in neuroscience is the physical process of creating and strengthening new neural pathways in the brain. When the prefrontal cortex is highly active, it sends a powerful signal to the hippocampus, the brain's memory storage center. It essentially tells the hippocampus, I am using a massive amount of brain energy to process this English sentence right now, so this information must be incredibly important to my survival. From short-term memory to long-term memory. Because the prefrontal cortex flags this information as highly important, the brain works harder to physically alter its structure. It efficiently moves the new English vocabulary and grammar rules from temporary short-term memory into permanent long-term memory. In short, the prefrontal cortex is the gateway to permanent memory. Reading aloud acts as a heavy brain workout that forces the prefrontal cortex to activate, thereby tricking the brain into deeply memorizing the English language. The ultimate goal of reading aloud is not just to understand English, but to physically remodel your brain through continuous repetition. In neuroscience, this ability of the brain to change and grow its physical structure based on repeated experiences is called neuroplasticity. To understand how this works, imagine walking through a dense forest full of tall grass. The first time you read a new English sentence aloud, it is like struggling to push your way through that tall grass. It takes a lot of effort, and your prefrontal cortex has to work extremely hard to process the vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation all at once. However, if you read that exact same sentence aloud 10 times, 50 times, or 100 times, you are walking over that exact same path again and again. Eventually, the grass is completely flattened, and the rough trail transforms into a smoothly paved, high-speed neural highway. This is exactly what growing the brain means in language learning. Once this neural highway is built, you no longer need the prefrontal cortex to consciously think about the rules. The English just flows out of your mouth automatically and effortlessly. Therefore, the true secret to English fluency is exactly as you concluded: continuous daily repetition to physically sculpt an English-speaking brain.
You don't need to be a genius to learn English. You just need the patience to keep walking that path until the highway is built.